Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Peterborough City Council Cabinet. There may be a little bit of noise upstairs. People are just coming in there, so please bear with everyone as they take their seats. I'd like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who've joined us for today's Cabinet meeting. We have a number of important issues to consider at today's Cabinet meeting, but before we begin, I'd like to share some housekeeping rules with you. First, please be aware that the meeting is being live streamed and that recording of the meeting will be available to view on the Council's website. Second, the Council allows filming and photography and it's public meeting, so please feel free to take pictures and to post onto social media during the meeting if you so wish. Third, may I ask that you all turn your mobile phones either to silent or off or vibrate if that's your choice. And that's out of courtesy, obviously, to other people. And finally, there is no fire alarm scheduled today. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the nearest fire exit and proceed directly to the fire assembly point. If the sound is intermittent, stay where you are and you will receive further instruction. We're now going to move to the formal agenda of the meeting. Dan, as Democratic Services Manager, please report any apologies for absence.
Thank you, Leader. We've received apologies from Councillor Fulbourn.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? Please let me know now. Okay, thank you. Item 3, minutes of the 17th of September. Item 3 is to approve the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 17th of September 2024. We are asked to approve the minutes of the Cabinet meeting as an accurate record. If any member doesn't agree, will you be kind enough to raise your hand now? Nope. Okay, thank you. Item 4, we've received several requests to speak on the Ken Stimson Academisation report and we'll call each speaker in turn during that debate. We've received, as far as I'm aware, no petitions. So, okay. So item 5 is the Ken Stimson Academisation. By way of background, Cabinet recall this item returns for us to decision following a call-in of the previous decision. We've received several requests to speak on this item and we've received written representations from residents as well as parents of the children of the school. We've seen an open letter from Peterborough's MP, Andrew Pakes, and we've also received a letter from the Regional Director at the Department for Education setting out the department's expectations. More of that in a moment. To this end, before I ask Councillor Cole to introduce the report, I wish to invite the Director of Legal and Governance to advise us about what is and what is not permissible here, as I believe it's important that both the Cabinet members and those present understand the legal position. Neil, please.
Thank you, Leader. A lot has been said and written about this issue, and at times different issues have become conflated and the respective responsibilities of different bodies have become blurred. So I hope what I'm about to say clarifies matters. This is the legal position as I see it and confirmed by leading counsel. I think first, Section B of the Academies Act imposes a duty on a local authority to take all reasonable steps to facilitate the conversion of a school into an academy. Second, before any or all of Area C is leased, it needs to be advertised in accordance with Section 123 of the Local Government Act 1972. Thirdly, under Section 77 of 3 of the School Standards and Framework Act, the consent of the Department for Education is required for a change of use in any playing fields which have been used by a maintained school for the purpose of a school at any time in the previous 10 years. And what that means is two things. Firstly, Area C has been used within the last 10 years, so the consent of the DFE is required to change its use. And secondly, Cabinet will need to be mindful of the fact that an application was made previously, which was refused by the Department for Education, and the Department of Education have, as you've just said, reiterated their position recently. Some of the submissions that have been received conflate the status of Area C in planning terms and the status of the land so far as the Department for Education and the legislation applying to schools are concerned. And I think that's important for two reasons. Firstly, in terms of planning permission, whilst there's a difference of opinion between officers and the legal advice received by local residents, my advice to Cabinet is that that is not a matter at issue today. If officers were wrong about planning permission and planning permission was required, permission could be applied for and determined in the usual way. But what that means is that the possibility of an additional planning hurdle should not deflect Cabinet from taking decisions in principle as the local authority and landowner. There also seems to be an assumption that the limits of the area to be leased or fenced are matters that sit in the Council's discretion when they are not. They're largely decisions for the Department for Education and the Academy Trust respectively, which broadly the Council has a statutory duty to go along with. There seems to be a presumption that safeguarding is a matter that sits in the Council's discretion, but it does not. Safeguarding decisions are vested in the Academy Trust. It's the Academy Trust that makes those decisions, guided by the relevant Department for Education guidance, and its decisions are not subject to review by the Council. So what all that means in summary is my advice to the Cabinet is that the proposed compromise of fencing part of Area C would require the consent of the Department for Education to a change of use, since it would lead to the remaining land ceasing to be used for the purposes of a school. The Council cannot unilaterally decide to pursue this option without the DFE consenting to the change of use. So I hope that clarifies matters, Leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Colleagues, the report before us has 3 recommendations for us to consider. However, I might think might be helpful at this point in proceedings if I indicated that we are minded to refer this matter to full council to decide, subject to the proviso that the land in question is advertised in the meantime when it meets. Council can consider any objections at that time. Councillor Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, is there anything you want to say by way of introduction to this report, please?
Thank you, Leader. The children of Peterborough are at the heart of every decision I take. Today we are here to reconsider the academisation of Ken Stimpson Community School, and in particular the fencing requirements of the Academy. This report outlines the key recommendations and considerations surrounding the conversion of the school into an academy. As you are aware, this matter has garnered significant public interest, particularly regarding the use, fencing and leasing of Area C of the Warrington Fields. Our objective today is to ensure that the proposed lease aligns with both the educational needs of the Academy and the community's interest in maintaining access to the open space. We will review the recommendations from the Joint Meeting of the Children and Education and Growth, Resources and Community Scrutiny Committee and decide on the best course of action to fulfil our statutory legal obligations and address the concerns of all children, residents and interested parties.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. I would now like to, before I move on, are there any questions from the Cabinet to either the legal officer or the Cabinet member? Okay. What I'd like to do now, please, to invite the first of our public speakers on this item. For consistency, each speaker will have a maximum of 4 minutes, please, which is the same length of time afforded to speakers when this item was presented to Cabinet in July. I'd be grateful if all speakers could introduce themselves and the particular group they are representing before they make their speech. Can I also ask speakers to keep in mind the point that I've already made about the fact that we are minded to refer this decision to Council. It will also be helpful if speakers do not repeat points made by previous speakers. if that's possible, please. First of all, I'd like to call upon Karen Allen, if I may. Karen.
Karen Allen, resident. The reason this has dragged on for so long is obfuscation and delay by both councillors and the Academy. We, the community, asked for clarity and transparency. We never got answers. There is a covenant on Area C. PCC already knew this, but have never disclosed it. It is mentioned in the Tenancy at Will document, item 3.2, section E, not to allow anything which may become a nuisance or annoyance to owners, occupiers of adjoining or neighbouring land. Archives research proves the land was intended for and has always been dual shared open access public space with the school. On the 2nd of August at the Scrutiny Committee, Mr Wales, head teacher, stated their plans to develop the land into a showpiece sports facility with investment partners. The potential noise and disruption, nuisance and annoyance from this development would clearly contravene the covenant, not to mention the additional issues of lack of parking and increased traffic in our residential area. This was the first we had heard of their true intent. Four Seas Trust has 7 million as cash in hand and in the bank as of August 2023. More money than the council. Why was it agreed that we, the taxpayers, should pay anything towards the proposed fence? As per legal advice from the 9th of October, the only course of action now available for the councillors is to put the matter through a planning application. Councillors could just about reclaim their credibility by acknowledging they were handed a poisoned chalice by the previous corrupt administration. Now they can demonstrate integrity by following due process and be completely transparent about everything and consult with us all. I believe the council have put up for sale 26 farms recently. Why not use some of that land to develop a state-of-the-art sports facility where it won't impact an already established residential area? The Covenant has protected this area for over 40 years. Councillors over the years have acted as stewards, maintaining it for everyone in the community. This must continue to hand it on to the next generation. We have a duty to reject corporate profiteering and asset stripping of our community. According to the Four Seas' own investment guidelines, they should not be embarking on any project that does not command broad public support. There is no broad public support. They should also not be embarking on any project that draws criticism from media, the press, and the public. So far, they have been criticised by all three. Lastly, the council have a duty to inform everyone affected by this sort of plan. I want the council to write to all of the residents who will be affected by post, as many don't do email. They pay their council tax, so the council must write to them. The council must do the right thing as representatives of the people, not corporations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Allen, for that. If you'd be kind enough, if we can avoid, I do appreciate emotions are running high, any sort of inflammatory language, and just stick to where we are today, please, because we can't change the past. That would be very much appreciated. Could I now call upon Sally Weald, Werrington Neighbourhood Council, please?
Hello, I'm Sally Weald and I'm representing Werrington Neighbourhood Council, which is the residents' elected representative group in the absence of a parish council, including being the official planning consultee. The Neighbourhood Council have been involved right from the start when we supported the original proposal of the fencing of the 2.5 pitches, believing that the school needs a safer area for its outside pitches. We have also further supported the compromise agreement of the 4 football pitches, We cannot, however, support the recommendation that Area C, 8 pitches, is leased to the Academy. We are once again telling you that you've not been provided with enough nor the correct information to enable you to make an appropriate and correct decision today. These fields have been used by the community for nearly 50 years. It is an important open space for the village that is lacking in appropriate play space. It is clear that this historic use gives the fields a dual use designation. There was a certain amount of legal evidence given to you at the last meeting, and in the last few days you've been sent even more legal information to show you that the fields cannot be classed as solely educational use. A dual use designation affects your ability to fence these fields. It calls into question the decision that the Department for Education gave to you, and it also means that the change of use may require planning permission procedure. We cannot dispute that the Academy needs a fence area, but 5 years ago 2.5 pitches was considered to be suitable. Now, more recently, the demand increased to 4 pitches, and now it's 8. The Academy has access to a lot of extensive sports facilities, and recently daytime community access has been removed from the gym area. So in real terms, how many extra students and hours of sport will the additional 4 fields actually accommodate in the course of its limited turn time activity? And why does the Academy need what appears to be double the space it really needs? The report that you have in front of you gives such a negative reaction to any suggestion of negotiation and compromise. It effectively dismisses any option to reach a negotiated settlement with the Academy. It's also said that the proposed community use agreement is an appropriate compromise, but it only gives a minority access to these fields, those who are a member of a club, those who can afford a fee. And the suggestion that Cricket East is interested in using the fields is going to mind the public availability of the fields even more. You have one decision here, and that is not to approve the fencing of Area C at this time. This will give time to review further the legal arguments, to review the options for negotiation, and, if necessary, to review a planning application route with appropriate consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you to both speakers for coming in under 4 minutes. That's very kind of you. Now I'd like to call upon Tony Foster, please.
Afternoon, I'm Tony Forster. I'm a local resident. I am a member of Save Warrington Fields group, but I'm speaking as a local resident. The officer's report for this meeting wants the Cabinet to ignore a unanimous recommendation from the cross-party scrutiny committee meeting and instead agree to fence the whole of Area C. It says that the Council has no discretion as to how much of Area C it can lease to the Academy Trust or how much of the leased land is to be fenced. That's a democratic disgrace. Why do we elect councillors and thus a cabinet if in reality there's no choice? The only reason Ken Stimpson students can't use the field for sport is that, without a risk assessment, the school decided that shared use with the public is unacceptable, though it worked well with no recorded safeguarding incidents for 40 years. I was a teacher at Stanground School from 1975 to 1986. I taught adults in classes learning alongside students, taking O-level or A-level, for instance. Shared learning was not common, but it was normal, as were shared facilities. That's what community schools did. When I heard 4C's representatives say at the Scrutiny Committee meeting that the public represents huge potential risk, that the school would need to lock down if anyone was to get into it, and that no child would be allowed to use land which was unfenced, I was bemused. I was even more bemused when he said it was unthinkable that a person with a dog should walk through any school. One of our dogs walked through a Peterborough infant school this lunchtime, working as a therapy dog and hearing children read. So have facts changed? Mike Sandeman talked about the world being more dangerous without any evidence. I've searched Ofsted's website. There is no reference to school playing fields being fenced. DFE's 2024 guidance, Keeping Children Safe in Education, makes no mention, of the perils of using unfenced playing fields. It talks instead about serious safeguarding issues such as abuse, neglect, cyberbullying and county lines. In 2016, which was a time when the school was sharing use of the fields for sport with the public, Ofsted's report on Ken Stimpson says the overwhelming majority of pupils say they feel safe in school. Parents and staff agree that pupils are safe. I'm not suggesting that the Academy Trust is using safeguarding as an excuse for a land grab. Though it is interesting, if you Google Land Grab Academy Trust, you find many examples, and safeguarding is mentioned every time. I am suggesting that 4C's extreme siege mentality approach to safeguarding is unhealthy and seems to me likely to create anxiety in its students. But it's also irrelevant. Warrington representatives support a compromise, half for the school, half for the community. 4Cs, meanwhile, is adamant it will accept nothing less than the whole of Area C fenced. We've just heard the Chief Legal Officer brief us that the Council is obliged by DfE to fence the public out of this land in its entirety. On the 25th of February, our former MP asked a question at Prime Minister's Questions in the Commons. The letter from the DfE following that question said, any decision by PCC to fence off parts or none of the school playing fields land does not require consent from the department and is entirely a matter for the council, providing the land remains designated as education land. Agreeing the compromise does not change the status of the land. It remains available for Ken Stimpson Academy to use. As the Cabinet, you can decide what you think is in the best interest of the city. I'll end by quoting our present MP. This is now a fundamental question of who runs Peterborough City Council, councillors or officers. There is a majority of councillors who want a compromise. It's time to demonstrate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Foster. Just on 4 minutes. Okay, could I ask Jenna Mariniak, please, to speak? Jenna?
Dear councillors, based on my experience at the last meeting, I fear that your decision today will have already been made, but there's a few things that I'd like to say for the record. If the Cabinet votes today for option 1, ignoring the Scrutiny Committee, the ex-Prime Minister and planning law, it will be a sad day for democracy in Peterborough. And it also could expose the council to years of potential further delays and litigation. You've been sent our legal advice, and it is clear. The historical records show that the fields are dual use. They were always intended to be shared between the community and the school to ensure that both have sufficient recreational space. It has been suggested in your papers that a community use agreement with a paid booking system means that dual use continues. However, again, we're advised that a fence that keeps the community out of this free and open green space does constitute a change of use. So, both legally and ethically, the council at the very least must go through a planning process to ensure that the proper consultation is done and the impact on the community's health and recreation, the trees, the wildlife and the character of Warrington are considered. The council's proposal, detailed in your papers, which recommends you support almost sneaking through a section 123 disposal of the fields, only then to consider a planning process if it's forced to, will only further delay the proper planning procedure and then the students' use of the field. We should not have to be threatening legal action if the council does not follow its own democratic procedures for consultation and planning. We shouldn't have to be fighting the council for a reasonable compromise. Ex-Ken Stimpson student Esther said it perfectly in today's Peterborough Telegraph. Their plans will rip the heart out of Warrington. And this is exactly how we all feel and why we've been fighting for so long. The only democratic outcome today would be for the council to renegotiate with the Academy. In only August last year, the Academy agreed that 4 pitches was an acceptable amount of space. Even Richie Sunak said when he was Prime Minister to the House of Commons that the council could fence just some of the fields, provided the area remains educational land. But the proper planning process must be followed. The Academy could compromise on 4 pitches and keep the rest as dual use, but why would they? It's not their job to represent the whole community, but it is yours. I truly hope your vote today stands for democracy, fairness and common sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Marinette. Can I now call upon Jan Forster, please? Jan.
Right, okay. Hello, I'm Jan Forster. I'm speaking as a local resident today. Does Ken Stimpson Academy need the whole of Area C? I would like you to hear from ex-pupil Esther, who does have an article in the Telegraph today, who left Ken Stimpson 2 years ago after 5 years there. She says, "I followed the debate about the fence as it rumbled on. First, while I was still a student, and since I left, I know firsthand the school doesn't need the amount of space it's trying to take. I live very close to the school site and the lovely green open space, and my old teachers now want to fence it off. I listened when the head teacher initially said they needed to fence off 2 football pitches of land, and then it turned out the area they wanted was protected by a covenant. They shifted their sights to another part of the green space. Then all of a sudden the space they needed had doubled, and now it's doubled again with no justification given. Teachers made no secret of how they felt about local residents who protested the loss of their beautiful open space. They showed no respect at all, and I think that attitude has been evident in the way the school has approached the whole thing. Most of the staff don't live locally, so they don't really care about the local community. The irony is, we students had loads of space for PE with some excellent facilities. We had several outdoor and indoor courts, the main sports hall and the gym. We were really lucky. Esther doesn't think they need all of Area C, and neither did the school only last August, when in their Section 77 application to the DFE, the school confirmed that the land the size of 4 football pitches enabled them to meet their sports curriculum needs. Mike Sanderman, CEO, now says the plan for 4 pitches was a mistake, and he would never have agreed to it, although he presumably did only last year, and was even at a public meeting back in September 2021 promoting this 4-pitch option. So why do they now want more land? Firstly, because council officers told them Area C was all school land. At a recent scrutiny panel meeting, Mike Sanderman said, "We've already heard the whole area is designated educational land for the young people of Ken Stimpson. That's what we've been told. That's why we're asking for that." They also justify the size needed using DFE guidance for recommended amounts of space in schools. This is 2018 guidance. It was around a time when the school wanted only 4 pitches, and it was still around when they wanted 2.5 pitches, but it wasn't quoted then. At the recent scrutiny panel, the reason they wanted so much land emerged. Karen already mentioned it in what she was talking about. Cricket East looking for a hub, inter-school fixtures and tournaments and festivals, fixtures from local football clubs. These are not for the benefit of the students of Ken Stimpson Academy and could still take part on unfenced land. But they make community use in an informal way impossible. In conclusion, I don't believe the Academy Trust has demonstrated its claimed needs and has other motives for wanting this large areas of land. As Esther said, this rips the heart out of Warrington's green space. I want to ask my ex-teachers to listen to local people and find a compromise. There is a fair and decent compromise proposed by various local groups. So, councillors, please tell 4Cs to stop wasting everyone's time and money. Compromise is fair to its students and the local community. This is not an officer decision. They weren't voted in, the councillors were. Please make the right decision this time. Compromise.
Thank you, Ms Foster. Can I now call on Mary Cragg, please? Mary?
I'm Mary Cragg. I'm a local resident. When I moved to Peterborough 40 years ago with young children, I was delighted to be living close to a community school. Growing up, my children benefited from access to a thriving library, preschool activity groups, specialist sports clubs, and summer holiday schemes, many of which were free. Over the years, the bulk of these opportunities have been eroded as the profile of community education withered and schools became more distant from the people living in their locality. Over time, the library opening hours have been restricted and the sport and recreational facilities become less accessible and at times closed for considerable periods. Throughout, however, the one constant was that the green space of Warrington Fields was available at all times for casual and organised use. For many years, it was used by students and staff too for their lessons, as well as at break and lunchtime. We now have a situation where it appears that students in PE kit, supervised by a teacher on the fields, are more at risk than those who daily leave the site unsupervised at break and lunch times to wander around Warrington Centre and in Tesco, where inevitably they mix with the same local community who pose such a threat on the playing fields. For whatever reason, although undoubtedly because of a lack of consultation with the community and an over-reliance on seeking opinion from the DFE, the Council now faces a choice of actually 3 unacceptable recommendations. I understand that this Cabinet has inherited decisions and agreements made by previous members. It is traditionally the action of those who, whether by bad advice or insufficient scrutiny, double down on inadequate decisions that have already been taken. Therefore, I would urge the Cabinet not to recommend option 1 and thereby retain their control over decision-making which affects their communities. Unfortunately, if option 2 is only an opportunity to pose these same choice of options to full council, then this will only reinforce the inadequacy of the current situation and risks not resolving anything. Option 3 appears on the surface to constitute a way forward. However, it glaringly omits a significant party, that is, the local community, from the negotiations. As the committee already knows to its cost, it is ill-advised to ask any government department a question if the answer is neither reliably predictable nor welcome. And as the Prime Minister himself intimated, it is a question for the Council to make. Therefore, I would strongly urge that the Cabinet amend option 3, take out the DFE involvement, include a full range of parties with proper legal information, and work within negotiation with the full range of parties for a smaller area of land exclusively for the use of the Academy Trust. I understand that the huge benefits my children received from community education are no longer available, but equally it would be most regrettable if the children, young people and adults of Warrington are excluded from a large section of Warrington Fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cragg. Can I now call upon, please, David Barsby? David.
Thank you. I'm a member of the local community 33 years, and although I'm a member of Save Warrington Fields, I'm speaking as a resident who attended the council meeting 4.5 years ago that passed the proposal to fence off the original part, if anybody remembers that. And that was an 8-foot fence. I'm told now that it's a 6-foot fence. And that was for safeguarding the pupils from the local villains that inhabit Warrington. In those 4.5 years, the local villains that inhabit Warrington have shrunk 2 feet. And they can now not get over a 6-foot fence, where 4.5 years ago, they couldn't get over an 8-foot fence. That proposal, although passed by the council, by their legal advisors, costing the council taxpayers over £20,000, was rejected because there was a covenant on that field. It's familiar, we're here again, and there's a covenant on this field. And it makes us wonder, I hope it's not the same legal advisors you got now, I've got nothing against the gentleman over there, But I hope the legal advice you get this time is correct, because otherwise you'll be facing the same challenge and it'll cost the taxpayer even more money when there is a compromise in front of you. I've been a runner at Warrington Joggers for over 30 years. The club's celebrated 40 years this year. In a half an hour, there'll be 40 children aged between 6 and 16 running on that field, being taught by qualified trainers, being educated on that field in running. We talk about educational needs. There's no reason that that field has to be used for this school as opposed to the one near the skateboard park. It just seems to be convenient that it's there as opposed to across the road. That's the victim again. It couldn't have the field behind it, now it wants the field adjacent. That field was sufficient when it was passed by the council 4.5 years ago. That was 2.5 pitches. Now it's 8 pitches. Safeguarding is not at the heart of this. What is at the heart of this is greed by business. Make no mistake, that's what's going on here. Anything else is smoke and mirrors. There's executives involved in this as well who have attacked people from Save Warrington Fields on their Facebook page, calling people idiots. I don't know if you've seen any of these remarks, saying these people are pensioners, got nothing better to do. They're oddballs and weirdos. This is members of the academy, of the school, teachers. It's all on their Facebook pages. We talked about the past, you did earlier, Chair, and I think going forward, everybody, especially the academy, especially employees of the council who have been paid by all of us, should just draw it in a little bit and remember a bit of respect for people. This has created a great deal of passion in the community, obviously. But going forward, whatever is achieved, we ought to integrate this school back into the community, even if it is an academy. Those people, I agree now, I've changed my view somewhat. Those kids have been denied going on that field for 5 years by that school, whether it is in a community school or an academy. Those kids, if it takes a smaller area with an 8-foot fence, as is around their school now, they haven't got a 6-foot fence, they've got an 8-foot fence around their school. That's what it takes, get the job done. It needs proper, sensible approach going forward and respect for everybody in the Brood and in the wider community.
Thank you, Mr Barsby. I'd now like to call upon Mike Sandeman, CEO of 4Cs Multi Academy Trust, please.
I'm Mike Sandeman. I'm the CEO of an educational trust, not a business. We are in a situation where we are joining this debate a long way in. I've just borrowed a dog. You might say it's a strange thing to say. My family wanted a dog, but we weren't sure. There is a website called Borrow My Dog, and I'll get it in the minutes for anybody that's interested. And I take it for the 6 o'clock walk. And I walk on public paths with dog bins. I don't walk on farmers' fields. I don't walk on people's gardens. And I certainly don't walk on the local junior schools because it's got a fence around it. And I think it's one of those things where I get my peace of mind at 6:15 in the morning. And when you consider that, you realise that for all the noise around this issue and the 5 years, which has already been indicated, no child has actually been able to go onto the field, it comes down to 3 simple questions. And we've heard them talked about in various ways, in various elements. What is the designation of the land? Well, the advice that we've had is it belongs to the young people of Ken Stimpson. And that's what it is. And therefore, young people have to be able to use it. And there have been lots of people quoting me that and the other about what size. I've never said any different. I've always believed that the size of that field should be the 7.1 hectares that's laid out in the DFE based on the size of the school. And that's what the previous Secretary of State said, that we can't change it because it's laid out for those young people. And that's the second question, the size. We've had councillors offering views on what they think is 2.5, 4 is enough. I don't know where people get that from, but the DFE says 7.1, the size that's being looked at the moment, is the right size for the size of school. And then we've heard the great word safeguarding. Why don't you do it differently? Cameras, people to security guards. There's never been anything else. Safeguarding is proactive. It's not reactive. We are not waiting for something to happen. My job, I'm not an expert on legalities. I look to other people to give me that. I am an expert, I suppose, if there is such a word, on safeguarding. And the simple question is safeguarding real, and does it require a fence around the areas which young people, when they're at school, are operating in? And the answer to those two questions is yes and yes. And those are your three questions. Everything else is merely noise. And I think we get to a point where Peterborough talks a lot about valuing young people. We've heard from Esther. Well, it's easy to say it. But for once, you have an opportunity to show young people that they are worth investing in. And that's what I would urge you to do. This is a relatively straightforward decision for the council. It's just not a popular one. And I understand that, and that's probably what makes it difficult. But young people are counting on you. We talked a lot about compromises. Yes, we've offered to pay for a fence that goes around the outside of the designated area, or support it, even though that's not part of what was agreed before we took on the academisation of a school that was potentially failing in Warrington. But taking land off young people is not a compromise the Four Cs is willing to consider at this stage. Never was and never will be. You will make a decision, whatever that decision is, and we will have to live with it, as will the young people. And I hope that you do recognise those things. The silence you will hear when I finish speaking will be the generations of young people still to attend Ken Stimpson who will beg for your support. And one final thought. My dog Henry, he fully agrees with the right to poo and urinate on my kitchen floor last night, but he feels he has not got the right to do on the local junior field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Sanderman. At least we know what Henry's thoughts are on it. Can I now call upon Damien Wales, please, who's the head teacher at Ken Stimpson Academy. Thank you.
Thank you. As you said, my name's Damien Wales. I'm head teacher at the school. The school's and my stance on this matter remain clear and unchanged. We will do what is permitted in the best interest of our students. This means securing the school's playing field. Whilst I didn't agree with the challenge to the decision made in July, I do respect it. The nature of the challenge did, however, leave me somewhat surprised, but still I left with a sense that there was a common understanding that the land is educational and that councillors understood the need to fence the fields to safeguard children. Today, the Cabinet have the facts presented again for re-examination and hopefully for the right decision to be reached again. The facts are, firstly, the public report. The recommendations are to erect a fence around Area C, pay a contribution towards the cost of said fence, and to agree the final lease for the academy. We have also heard directly from the Department of Education, who clearly state measures must be put in place to ensure the playing fields are safe, clarifying a fence must be installed in line with the Trust's requests. The land must retain its education designation, and there cannot be any loss of land, in line with the decision from ministers. The size of the school's playing field need to be the same size that it was when maintained by the local authority, Area C, and the lease needs to be entered in as soon as possible. None of this contains emotion, opinion, or otherwise, just the facts. As requested, the views of students, parents and staff have been received. The staff, many of whom are ex-students, Warrington residents and current parents, were unanimous in their support for the fence and shared historical safeguarding issues, including repeated examples of issues around dog faeces on children's clothes and shoes. Parents were also unanimous in their support and desire for the whole area to be fenced, with multiple references to the fact there are huge areas of open space that will remain accessible. dog faeces being an issue and children missing out for too long. Students are also extremely supportive. There was one single student who felt the field should remain open, but the rest of the students are desperate to have a school field, constantly referencing things like space at breaks, a desire to have a proper sports day like the other schools. The alternatives, option 2, refer to full cabinet, which I understand are a non-starter, as referenced on page 16 of the public report, and would run counter to the Department of Education's direction. Option 3, go back to the Academy Trust and negotiate with the DfE for a smaller area, which again is a non-starter, as neither the Trust or the DfE would consider that sensible. And finally, a suggestion that a smaller proportion of the school field should be fenced as some sort of compromise, which is again a non-starter for all the reasons shared. My views as head teacher, not that opinion or emotion should carry any weight, but my perspective is. We are now 5+ years since a student has set foot on their playing field. An entire cohort of students have gone their entire school experience without. Enabling public dogs and children to mix is simply not possible, regardless of opinion. An obvious example, and at least one point of agreement within this room, would be, surely, nobody would consider exercising dogs in a children's play area to ever be acceptable. This is no different to what is currently happening on the school field and the school football pitches. The division of the multiple Warrington fields allows general public to have multiple pitches and green spaces, and the children to have a secure playing field. I really cannot see any unfairness. I am. As the head teacher, my motives are that I do everything possible to constantly improve the school. That means I am serving the community by striving for the best education in the best learning environment for the children of Warrington and beyond. The access to local clubs and the community beyond the school day is no different to the current model that exists. If Vivacity run the facilities, including the pitches in the evenings and weekends, not the school does not and will not gain financially. The suggestion here today to take away from children are very hard to stomach and something that is completely at odds with who I am and what I continue to stand for. The Cabinet were criticised for the lack of debate last time, and I have to say I understand that, mainly because all the facts demonstrate the children of KSA need their field securing. There is no debate.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Wales, for your contribution. We now have 2 speakers who are students at the school, and I have Katie Chambers, Year 11 student. Katie, I'm assuming that's you, I'm guessing.
If I may, both of the students are going to speak almost simultaneously, and they're representing
In
the
that
views.
case, thank you. I'll introduce them both. Katie is a Year 11 student, and Alfie Marriott is a Year 10 student, and you're going to sort of share the 4 minutes. Go ahead, please. You have 4 minutes, so go for it.
Thank you. If this had been the only field in Warrington, I could understand this, but there are many fields in Warrington for you to walk. There is really no shortage of greenery. As a community, we should be supporting our young people to grow, develop and learn within the best environment possible, and that includes demanding that our local school has the best facilities possible.
Alfie, can I just...
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to offer some context. What they're reading are the views of parents, staff and students, so they aren't necessarily their words, they are a reflection of the school community. So he's,
okay, so
it's
a collation of...
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, carry on. Thanks, Alfie.
Possible, or at very least, we should be demanding that the facilities at KSA are at least as good as other schools in the area. We should be outraged that our children are being disadvantaged in this way. Everyone needs to come to their senses and support the school in its application.
Myself and my husband fully support the fencing of the fields. All we ever see is the Facebook groups to save Warrington Fields, but I'm not brave enough to comment on those for the fear of the backlash. It would be really good for all to see that many people support this, rather than just seeing the opinions of those who oppose.
I'm very much in support of the fencing of the school field. I find it ludicrous and quite sad that the Ken Stimpson children are missing out on having a green space to safely play sports. I would not feel comfortable knowing that they were playing on a field that isn't securely fenced. Unfortunately, we live in a society where there are individuals that may prey on young children. I have taken my children on other communal fields in Warrington where there have been broken glass and dog mess on the ground. The risk of this would be greatly reduced for school children if the field at Ken Stimpson was safely fenced. I really hope this matter is resolved, and it's gone for too long now. There are plenty of green space in Warrington, and I ask for a small section of the land to be fenced to allow children to play safely in a safe environment. I feel this is their right. As a sports coach myself, I completely understand the need for the correct safeguarding of pupils and teachers alike, and I'm in full support of you and your governors. Plus, the Academy has a whole in this matter. A fenced-off area on this land designated for educational use is a must.
As a member of staff, a parent and a Warrington resident who has worked in Warrington for over 20 years, 10 years ago I would regularly be cleaning my child's trainers from dog poo that was picked up on the field from their PE lessons at Ken Stimpson. Also, listen to the reports of the class having to be brought in because of a dog, person walking across field or someone of concern. It has always worried me. As a resident and dog owner, I walk across this field in my free time. It's a lovely space, but it is one of many. I would rather students safely outweigh my decision to walk a few steps further with my dog to the next field. If fenced and organised sports held, we are giving opportunities to young people and the local community a safe, organised place. And there is still plenty of free space for picnics and other independent activities.
I have worked at school for at least 10 years and lived in Warrington for at least 6 years. I frequently make the use of the numerous green spaces around Warrington with my 2 small children and my dog in the evenings at the weekends. In my early years at the school, I've witnessed members of the public talking to the school students on the field during sporting events and sports days. I've also witnessed over the earlier years many dogs off the lead with no recall running through groups of students who used to be able to eat on the lunch field. Finally, as a tutor, in the past I've had to support students to clean their school shoes at breaks and stood in dog poo on the field.
Would you like one sentence to sum up, or are you done?
It's okay.
Okay, thank you. If you turn your microphone off, that's kind. Thank you very much. Thank you to Alfie and Katie for their contributions. I now come to the 3 ward councillors, starting with Councillor Sarah Hilly, if I may, please.
Oh no, I've got it. Still can't work it. I appreciate that this is a very difficult decision for Cabinet members. The loss of public space, a very large area of beautiful green open space that has been dual use educational and public open space for 40 years to an Academy Trust may not sit well with some of you. This has been presented by officers again as a no real choice decision. Repeatedly in the report to Cabinet, you have been told that it is highly unlikely that a compromise can be reached. Why? All representatives in Warrington, the ward councillors, Warrington Neighbourhood Council and Save Warrington Fields have agreed and compromised on previous positions in some cases. It is the 4Cs MAT that won't compromise and in fact have changed their position from wanting 2.5 pitches to 4 pitches and now 8 pitches. We are told in the officer's report that the prospect of changing part of Area C through Section 77 consent from the DFE is doubtful. However, if the DFE were given correct information that the land is dual use, not solely educational land, perhaps that would not be so doubtful. We are also told that the proposed community use agreement will meet the obligation for public use. This is not the case. Over the summer months in particular, the fields are in constant use by local people of all ages. The community use agreement just allows for chargeable, organised sports. I have concerns about the 4Cs MAT's ability to deliver and maintain community sports facilities following the poor maintenance and access to facilities such as tennis courts and the swimming pool AMVC. Plans to improve facilities are just plans, they're not reality. There is also now mention in the officer's report and letter to parents from Ken Stimpson that fencing Area C provides protection from some potential development in future. This is not the case, because if the Academy Trust decide that some of Area C is surplus to that needed for educational purposes, they could apply to change it and sell it off for development, as they have done with part of the school playing fields at Arthur Mellows, which is now a housing estate. Both sides feel with some justification that they are legally in the right, but it is past time to finally let some common sense bring the matter to a satisfactory end for everyone. The law does not decide what is right and wrong. It simply argues the relative merits of points of law. The four CSMAT have argued that safeguarding is the key issue and that the priority has to be to support the academisation process, although it is not clear why this requires them to take the entire fields when part of the land they are demanding would suffice. The residents of Warrington feel strongly that the proposal would destroy the Development Corporation vision of Warrington Fields as the centrepiece of green open space clearly designated for everyone's use. It is sad that we have reached this point, but without common sense and compromise, this sorry affair could drag on for a long time, and then the only winners will be the lawyers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hiller. Can I now call upon Councillor John Fox, please?
Thank you. Councillor Judy Fox and myself truly believe, had the councillors and especially officers listened to us in the first place back in 2019, when we opposed the planning application to put a fence up in Area A, asking them to defer their decision until they had looked at an alternative area, which was in Fox Covert Road, then the size of 2.5 football pitches, which was required by the school. That a fence would have probably now been put in place and would be up in use today had they just listened. However, after that decision was made, they went to the school in 2021, Mr Sanderman was there, and asked how they could resolve the situation, and it was decided that the school wanted the same area, Fox Covert Road, but now the size of 4 football pitches, which they stated was totally suited for all their needs, also bearing in mind the size of the student numbers at the school at the time. Now, in 2024, even though the student population has not grown significantly, they have decided that they now require twice the amount of land. I believe that this is to develop a much larger sports facility, which will be opened up to the public, which will more than likely cause our nearby residents unnecessary problems with overparking and possible breach of traffic regulations. My concerns are plenty, especially since the whole issue arose. The same Academy Trust has built a new school in Manor Drive, and I have to ask them why they did not consider using the vast amount of land in that area to develop their ambitions, rather than in the middle of a housing estate. When Peterborough First were in administration, our leader, who's at the back, and our colleagues will all confirm to residents just how all 3 of the ward councillors were strongly against the fencing off of the whole field, and equally just how verbal and sometimes aggressively, as you know, Leader, we spoke out strongly for the compromise and always have throughout. Since the new administration has come into power, I truly hope they have found the answers to many of our residents' questions and have come up with a principled, logical and sound reason for their decision today. I also hope that our present MP's letter, which should speak volumes to everyone, stating the power to fix this is yours. The time is now to bring the community together, get students playing sport safely and end the drain on council resources by agreeing a compromise. We believe that there is a majority of councillors who want a compromise, so the only way to sort this out once and for all is to take it to full council so a full debate can be had and a democratic decision made by all councillors, not a select few. The decision is with the Labour administration and nobody else. So I beg that you today have the power to deliver this compromise for the sake of the residents and don't lose the opportunity now. Please.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Councillor Judy Fox, please.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support my two colleagues in all they have said, as I have personally never been against safeguarding, but truly believe that we do not want and have never seen the necessity of taking all the land from the public for the sole use of the school. The ward councillors and the public expect answers to their many questions, making it truly transparent to all concerned why you are making your decisions in the way you are today. Believe that this is now an obvious and unnecessary use of land that has been open to the public for so many years and is not truly needed or required, and may well cause long-term disruption to our many residents living close by if agreed to today. The reasons given for the increase in size of the amount of land required by the school for safe sporting activity is totally too much for such a size of the school and the number of students it will affect, especially as they stated only in 2021 that all they required was a fence half the size they now require, and there has been no real increase of students. I have to ask why officers in the school need the whole area fenced off, and surely they should give the true explanation to why they are not willing to compromise. So I implore you to listen to the many speakers today and to openly answer each question put to you by each individual truthfully, honestly, and making sure you are fully aware of all the facts, not just what you are being told before you make any decisions. Are you 100% sure if there are no legal covenants on the land to stop this going ahead or not? If so, please answer that question, if only to reassure the public. Also, who will be making the profit out of the use of the land when the public use it for their various sporting activities, especially at the weekends? Also, who will maintain the grass cutting and maintenance of the area fenced off? Will a planning application have to be submitted to put any large buildings on the area for such things as changing or shower facilities, floodlighting, viewing platforms or stands? What are the intentions for the sports centre facility in Warrington, and who will run that in the future, or is that in danger of closing fully to the public? Will the Cabinet agree to look into building a new sports centre with a swimming pool, which we were so close to achieving for Warrington by putting that back on the agenda? Having said all this, we still believe that the only suitable solution is a compromise that our present MP Andrew Pakes, our former MP Paul Bristow, Peterborough First councillors, as well as many other cross-party councillors in this council want, including some Labour, which is a logical compromise for all concerned, especially the residents of Warrington. So please, I ask that you refer this to full council so a full debate can take place in public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Before we move on, we'd normally go to debate at this moment, but obviously there are points being raised of a legal nature, and what I'd like to do is I conferred before with Neil, and I'd like to bring him in before we open up to debate, please. Neil.
Thank you, Leader. I've already given you my advice on the respective responsibilities of the different bodies, so I will not repeat that here. I would though like to briefly deal with the issue of covenants and the issue of statements made in Parliament. In relation to the issue of the covenant, Area C, along with Area B, was acquired by Cambridge County Council from the Peterborough Development Corporation back in 1981, and there is a covenant on the land not to permit a nuisance, annoyance or damage to Peterborough Development Corporation, its successors or owners or occupiers. But the covenant goes on to specify the development and use of the said land for the purposes of a school in a proper and normal manner shall not be deemed to be a breach thereof. And therefore my advice is that the covenant here and the covenant that was referred to on a separate parcel of land are quite different. And secondly, just very briefly, in terms of statements made in Parliament, my advice is that statements made in Parliament should not be cited as authority on the legal position or possible solutions. I understand why statements might be made, but that I would just urge Cabinet not to give too great a weight to statements that have been made in Parliament when they're coming to actually address their own legal responsibilities. Thank you.
Points duly noted. Thank you, Neil. ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our public speakers. Thank you to everyone who kept to time or almost. I very much appreciate it. And, you know, it's been conducted in a civilised manner. Thank you. Cabinet, can we now move to debate, please? Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. Neil, I'm going to come back to you again. You just said that the covenant that refers to Land B is different to the other covenants. Can you just sort of clarify that for us?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. And inevitably these track a long way back to transfers that were done a long time ago. The transfer of the land that I've just referred to, which is Area C on the report before you, and Area B, were the subject of a transfer as I described, and they're subject to the covenant that I've just read out. So there was a covenant on those, in fairly standard terms, requiring that the use of the land not create a nuisance for the person selling the land at that point, Peterborough Development Corporation and their successors in title, or others, with a clear carve-out that use of the land for a school and the building of a school and the use of a school would not breach that covenant. I mean, that is consistent with the which I don't think is particularly disputed, with the idea that the land was purchased with a view to it becoming used for educational purposes. The previous parcel of land, which was referred to, which I think is Area A, did have different restrictions on it. That was not part of the same. So the point that was made earlier about covenants having previously created an encumbrance to the use of the land is correct. The point I'm making is that the covenants as relate to this land are quite different, and therefore the use for the land for the development of a school was specifically envisaged in the 1981 sale documents.
Thank you. I've just got one further question for now. The advice we've been given by the DFE, there is a letter that was sent earlier, and then there is a letter that's come recently. Can you just clarify what the second one says and how it differs from the previous letter?
My understanding of the letter, I don't have it before me, so I'm doing this from memory, is that, I mean, it broadly reiterates the position in terms of the DFE's expectations that this be education land. I don't think that's disputed, and I've already explained the question of what the implications of that are. I don't know if my colleague might be able to...
Thanks, Neil. I think, John, am I right? You're going on your keyboard, so it sounds like you've got a copy of the letter there. Can you elucidate, please?
Thank you, Leader. So the Department for Education have taken an interest in the finalisation of the lease on the Academy in relation to confirming our responsibilities in accordance with the Academies Act to facilitate the academisation of Ken Stimpson School. And to support that, they contacted the local authority last week to reiterate its position, which is very simply that the Four Seas Multi-Academy Trust is responsible for putting arrangements in place to safeguard the well-being and health and safety of its pupils, and therefore it must ensure the playing fields are safe. It reiterated that it is important the land is retained for educational use designation, and it set out the Department for Education's position that there is a clear policy presumption against the loss of school land, and the presumption is particularly strong where land is classed as playing field. The letter then goes on to reiterate the position regarding the previous Section 77 application that was turned down, and then reminds the local authority that the size of the school of the the letter then reminds the local authority of the size of the school playing field to ensure it is in keeping with the Department for Education's area guidelines for mainstream schools. The letter concludes by reinforcing the expectation that it is reasonable to expect that the land that was used by the school when it was a community school is in keeping with the same amount of land that is demised as education land when the academy order is finalised. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay. Are you okay? There's sufficient. Okay. Any further questions, please?
I am, because I feel that compared to the previous letter, this one clarifies the situation a lot more than the last one did. Because there was a few ifs and buts on the last one, whereas this one is a lot clearer for me.
This is the most recent letter that you're referring to. Yeah. Okay. Cabinet, any further questions? Councillor Cahan.
Thank you, Leader. I'm just going to refer to some I've been making notes. I understand that on behalf of the Academy, the members that have spoken have stated that there was never any compromise that had been agreed to, although other speakers have referred to the fact that when the application to the DofE was made to fence a smaller area, at that stage the Academy was happy with the smaller area being fenced. So I wanted to know what happened between then and now, which means that Academy now wants the entire area to be fenced. But obviously it seems clear from here when members spoke on behalf of the Academy that that was something that had never happened. And I just want to clarify that point rather than sort of ask the question.
Can I answer that? It's a very fair question. The Academy Trust has never supported either of the previous options. Councillor Fox referred to me attending an open meeting, which was a very stressful meeting for a previous head teacher who I was supporting personally. I wasn't there in any other guises to support that. The Academy did not have any say in the school at that point because it was a local authority school. Had I been asked, I would have, not that it was my business at that point, I would have said what I say now, which is the area that's allocated by the DFE based on the side of the school is 7.1 hectares, which is Site B. And that's the area that you should be looking at. It wasn't my call at that point. Any time that I have been involved from a legal point of view, my position has been the same and has never changed. So the fact that I took place at that open meeting was a personal support to a member of staff that was really under fire and since has obviously left that position. So I want to make it absolutely clear, the Academy Trust has never supported anything but the allocation that the young people were given in 1981 has been made quite clear and should still have it academised or otherwise in that sort of situation. So that's the position and hasn't changed.
Thank you, Mr. Sandman. Does that clarify?
Yes, it does. I'm going on the back of our conversations with our directors. I believe that we don't have anything substantiated to that effect in writing as well, that a compromise was ever sort of agreed to from the trust perspective. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you. To the very best of my knowledge, there's no a compromise agreement in place. And I think, as I said at the previous Cabinet meeting and indeed the follow-up scrutiny committee, there is no compromise to be had. I think that's been clarified again today.
Forgive me, with the debate now is we've had the speakers. If you don't mind, what we need to do. Yeah, it's cabinet debate. Thank you for your input. The only thing I am going to do is, for the sake of balance, I believe Councillor Hillier wants to just come in very quickly on a point. I do believe.
Yeah, about the most recent letter from the DofE that Mr. Gregg had. We haven't seen that as ward councillors, but I don't believe any of us have seen that. Why have we not had access to that before today?
I think it's only just come in, but I don't know just what's the... Councillor Coles is nodding vigorously.
Hello, so thank you, Leader. So the letter from the DFE came through on the 11th of October.
It's the 15th today.
It's the 15th. It's the 15th. It is the 15th.
Again, it doesn't do much for the transparency argument.
Yeah, I think we just have to stick with the facts for the moment. Forgive me, we've got to stick with the protocols. I do appreciate, but, you know, please, let's stick with the protocols. Okay, first of all, are there any further questions? So we've had a letter that obviously has not been seen by the ward councillors. Any further questions before we move to recommendations? Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to get it totally right in my mind, just in case I missed something. Are we being told the legal advice to the Cabinet now is that we cannot consider any compromise or agreement? That is the legal advice. I just want that totally concrete before we make any decisions.
It's certainly sounding that way. Neil, can I bring you in at that point to advise, please?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to reiterate my advice. I mean, my advice is that the Cabinet cannot rationally, unilaterally decide the compromise in the absence of the consent from the Department for Education to change the use of the land. You know, changing the use of Area C requires the consent of the Department for Education. So that is my advice. So I know that a lot has been said about the compromise. I'm not ruling out the prospect of a compromise. I think the likelihood of that is a matter for Cabinet to weigh up. What I'm saying is that the compromise that is put forward is put forward, and it tries to step around the fact that the Department for Education's consent would be required to give effect to that. The Council cannot unilaterally do that. I know that's a difficult matter, but that is my advice.
Okay, we're kind of skiing a little bit off piece, but John, you want to come in? I do appreciate you got a lot of skin in this game.
Thank you, Chair. And one of the concerns I've got is I thought we were allowed to ask questions of the people that have already spoken and the Cabinet. Can we not do that?
Normally this is questions from Cabinet to officers. Okay. Yeah? But if you want to make a point, I think it's such a contentious issue. If there's something you want to ask, then, as I did with Councillor Healy, you're very welcome. Yeah. You okay? Yeah. Okay, but normally it's Cabinet to officers, but... Okay. No, I mean, I'm you know... Normally that doesn't happen, but it is in this instance, so go ahead, please. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate that, Leader. I have two questions. Why, when the school put in for an extension, did they have to put in planning permission if it was educational land? All of a sudden now we can't, you know, it's changed, but at the time when they'd done the extension, they had to put in planning permission. What's changed? In 2021, Mr. Sandeman can be seen clearly supporting 4 fields on the video, PCC video. Why is that? Why have they had a change in heart? 1 minute they said they want 4 fields, now they want 8. I don't understand that.
Could I come back, since it's a question to me? As I've said before, I was not part in the legal terms of what was going on. I was supporting an individual who was struggling in terms of an open meeting, and therefore my job was to support that individual. I had no legal standing. I was not really representing the trust. I was a supporting head teacher at the time, and therefore I have no status in what was going on at that point. My job was to look after an individual that has since left the situation. I don't believe I did really support it. I'd supported the individual from a very difficult circumstance. So,
Mr. Sandman, you made that point eloquently before. Can we just please observe the protocols?
Yeah.
I know it was asked of you, but kindly go through the chair.
It was again asked of me.
Kindly go through the chair, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Okay. I'm not denying you the opportunity to answer, but if anybody does it, refer through the chair.
My apologies.
Okay, thank you. Right, are there any... Thank you for... you made your position, and that's absolutely fine. And that's a reply there. Neil, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Leader. So just really to then absolutely clarify, in terms of, is it the council decision, is it a DFE decision, who actually is responsible for determining how much of the land is demised? Thank you.
I could bring you in there, Neil, for me.
So, I think I've already done this, but the question needs to be taken in stages. Okay, the land currently is owned by the local authority, and therefore any demise of it, any sale or lease requires advertising under the Local Government Act, and the advertising then requires the council to consider any objections that are made in relation to that. So that who owns it, the use of the land, however, is also governed by Section 77 of the School Standards and Framework Act, which means that if the land has been used as playing fields within the last 10 years, which it has, the consent of the DFE is required to change its use. And that's where we get into the difficulty of the fact. So changing its use is a matter for DFE in terms of the change of use. Now, thereafter, the position is the council has a statutory duty to facilitate the academisation, which it has done for some time under a tenancy at will. That's we've then moved to a lease subject to the advertising requirements. That question, in terms of the decision to demise the land, sits ultimately with the council. But in reaching that decision, you have to be mindful of the fact of the status of the land, which requires the prior consent of the Department for Education.
Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions from the Cabinet to officers before we move to recommendations? Debate. Anybody? Okay. Councillor Ellis, sorry, Mike. Debate. Do kick off.
Thank you, Leader. I would like to see a balanced solution which all sides can compromise and agree on for the benefit of Kent Stimson School students, their safety, the community of Warrington, and to help protect green space for Peterborough as we work towards climate net zero. But, following on from legal advice today, we have been told that we cannot consider a compromise of demising 60% of the land, which I feel is a shame.
There's a point made. Councillor Jamil, please.
Yeah, I've listened to both sides intently, and I'm going to go with the councillors who know the area, and I'm going to suggest that we move this through to full council and let them make a decision. I think that was probably the best forum for us to do it in.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
First of all, I want to say well done to the two young people that are in the room. That's very brave of you to do that, speaking in front of adults. So thank you very much for giving your opinion. As I said before, children are at the heart of the decisions I make. And I'm also minded of the children in the wider community and the councillors that live in the area. And it was made very clear at the scrutiny committee that we would listen to all sides. I personally would like to see a compromise, but from what I'm being told, that is not something that was within our power at the moment. So I think it should go to full council so that we can all discuss and all debate and decide a way forward.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Cairn.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to concur with Councillor Cole in thanking, in fact, all speakers that have come from a very passionate place, because this is something that's deeply personal to all of them, and particularly the children at Ken Stimson School who have come here to articulate the views of the members that represent the school as well. I think that it is an incredibly contentious issue. I think that it's an issue that, whilst we have inherited, that we can be resolute in the fact that we're taking responsibility. Views have come forward about democracy and exercising that use of democracy, and actually we have 60 councillors that represent the city, and I think that it would be a good idea to bring it to full council. And on the point of the Department of Education, where the most recent correspondence has given, I think my suggestion would be for those that wish to, because the MP has made representation on their behalf, is to perhaps lobby the MP to take back views to the Department of Education on your behalf, because that is what the role of the MP is, to take your views back to the Department of Education and make those representation and ask questions on your behalf to the Department of Education as to how you feel and how this decision from their end came about. And that's just a suggestion that I'd like to take back to the members that have come here today. But we all thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Cam. The debate has actually moved on quite a pace, you know, especially with the letters and the legal advice that we've had, which is both updated and very apposite to this. What I'm going to do is bring in our legal officer now to look at the recommendations that we're faced with, and with obviously Cabinet colleagues who are suggesting this be moved to full council, when originally we were minded to compromise, but it looks like now that, as I say, things have moved on. Neil, please.
So thank you, Leader. So clearly the report sets out three options for consideration, but having heard the discussion there, I think the recommendation needs to be amended. So I've got a revised proposed resolution to put forward, I think, which echoes the point you made earlier about what the Cabinet were minded to do. I think the first recommendation then would be that the Cabinet notes the recommendation from the joint meeting of the Children and Education and Growth and Resources and Communities Scrutiny Committee that was held on 2nd August and resolves, 1, to rescind the executive decision that it made on the 16th of July and 2, refer the matter to full council. I think that's the first amended recommendation or proposal, given the discussion that just took place. I would suggest alongside that Cabinet ought to resolve to advertise the land in question so that the question of whether the lease of the whole or part of the area to the Trust and any objections made thereto can be considered when Council meets. So my second suggestion would be that Cabinet resolves that the proposal to lease the whole of Area C to the Academy Trust be advertised in accordance with Section 123 of the Local Government Act, so that any objections can be considered before decisions reached. And then thirdly, I think what I was hearing was that Cabinet would be minded to decide further negotiations should take place with the Trust and the Department for Education with a view to leasing or fencing approximately 50 or 60% of the Area C for the use of an Academy Trust. I mean, I think that is where the debate has ended up, and that, just to be clear, I think would be a position that could then go forward to Council if you're content with that.
Thank you, Neil. So what we need to do is agree as a Cabinet to each of those recommendations, and effectively we're endorsing a version of the second option with some amendments. So I'm going to seek Cabinet support and for this. So 1, the Cabinet notes the recommendation from the joint meeting of the Children and Education and Growth Resources and Committee Scrutiny on the 2nd of August and resolves, 1, to rescind the executive decision made on the 16th of July and 2, refer the matter to full council. Is that agreed? Thank you. 2, that Cabinet resolves that the proposal to lease the whole of Area C to the Academy Trust shall be advertised in accordance with Section 123, subsection 2A of the Local Government Act 1972, so that any objections made thereto may be considered before any lease of the whole of part of Area C is granted to the Academy Trust. Is that agreed? Thank you. Sorry, it's a bit legalese, but we have to get the wording absolutely spot on. And number 3, that Cabinet records that it would be minded to decide that further negotiation be placed with the Academy Trust and the Department for Education with a view to leasing and or fencing approximately 60% of Area C for the use of the Academy Trust. Is that agreed, even in the light of what we've heard? Yes? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to everyone that's attended today and contributed to the meeting. I'll now call a short break and allow people to leave. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your attendance, and wishing you a safe journey home. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Following that short break, we now continue with item 6, Peterborough Economic Growth Strategy. It's the economic growth strategy, and as Councillor Thulborn, the Cabinet member, isn't here, it's now fallen upon me, as soon as I find my... Here we are, to introduce this. The Peterborough Economic Growth Strategy provides a blueprint for how we will build upon Peterborough's strengths, address our challenges and capitalise on the wealth of opportunities we have before us, in order to create an innovative and vibrant economy that provides opportunity for all of our citizens. Inclusivity and sustainability are at the heart of this strategy. Peterborough remains one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and ensuring that all residents are able to take part in and benefit from that growth is not just a moral imperative, it is key to reducing demand on council services and therefore to the council's long-term financial sustainability. Likewise, the council has a key role to play in ensuring that the growth that does take place in the city and surrounding area takes place in a responsible manner that doesn't impact negatively on our existing residents or future generations of Peterboreans. This is why this strategy has a focus on clean and green growth, on initiatives that seek to minimise environmental impact and wherever possible provide positive net gain. In order to support the creation of better paid, higher skilled and more secure jobs, it will be essential that we are doing all we can to support our businesses to innovate, to invest in research and development and adopt and create new technologies that increase productivity and resilience, ensuring that our business remain competitive in a fast-changing global economy. This strategy outlines from the council can play a leadership role in shaping the physical future of our city by maximising the economic opportunities presented by our £1 billion regeneration programme and by promoting Peterborough as an exciting and productive location for new businesses and investors. And it lays out our approach to ensuring that we are creating that environment that all businesses require to thrive by ensuring that they have the physical and digital infrastructure that they require, including transport, power and water. Encompassing all of this, this strategy lays out Peterborough City Council's ambition to take the leadership role that it needs to as one of the primary anchor institutions within the city. And by using all of the levers we have at our disposal, as well as at the very many positive relationships we have with public and private sector partners to support the delivery of this strategy. I hope the Cabinet will view this strategy positively, and I'm happy to take any questions. That was from Councillor Thulborn that I've read out in his absence. Members, we will now move to questions and debate. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Leader. As a true Peterborean, not many of us can say that. Can we, Adrian? No? Obviously, this is just what I really want to sort of need and see right now for the city and its future. It needs to go in that right direction. And I recognise that it's a major change as well for us, so that we're not going to see the changes happen in the next even 12 months. But what I would be interested to know is that when we will start being able to see the benefits of it and basically bringing the words off the paper of the strategy into reality, so that people can actually see what we're doing and where it's where it starts on this document, to the green shoots coming out. Thank you.
Can I bring it, Tom? Would you like to respond to that?
Happy to, Leader. Thank you. Yes. Whilst many of the larger impacts of this strategy will take some time to come to fruition, we will start to see some positive impacts within the next 12 months. if this strategy is adopted, then we can start to look at some of the projects that we've outlined in there, such as the Digital Accelerator project that we're already talking to Anglia Ruskin University about from a delivery perspective. We would be looking to work with small businesses across the city to support them increase survival rates, and we would hope that that would have an impact certainly within the next 12 months. But some of the longer term strategic issues, absolutely, infrastructure challenges, they will take longer to sort. Yes.
Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. A question again for Tom again. I looked through your 5 thematic game-changing interventions, as you call them. Now, as much as I want to admit it, our city centre is not as popular as it used to be once. What plans do you have in place? Because a lot of the time people tell me they're afraid to come because of the begging, because of the drinkers. Now, you talk in this, you touch on bits of it. So can you give us a bit more detail as to what you're going to do to solve that problem and make the city centre more attractive so we get more visitors in?
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, Tom. I just expect you to answer. My apologies. Continue. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, the city centre certainly does present some challenges, but also many opportunities. It's a fantastic space that we look to make better use of in the future. There are a number of initiatives and working groups currently established to deal with that, because some of these challenges are quite complex, particularly with regards to some of the antisocial behaviour issues that we see in the city centre, and not just increasing safety levels, but also the perception of safety to attract more visitors into the city centre. So there is a city centre programme board that meets on a regular basis now, looking at safety issues and cleanliness, but also around animation of that space, bringing new events into that space, looking to bring buskers in just as one opportunity. There's also another working group looking specifically at issues around nighttime economy, which also very much look at safety issues, but also bringing in a wider range of nighttime economy businesses and entertainment into the city centre to make it a vibrant and attractive place. But we're also looking at a feasibility study and a viability study for the Guildhall, which is a fantastic centrepiece for our city centre, and looking at what could be done with that space to bring it back, to reclaim that for the city, turn it back into a community use space, and potentially, depending on levels of funding available, looking at that as a potential visitor information centre and a centre for a base from which to run entertainment and music events in the future.
Sounds very exciting. Does that answer your question, Councillor Jamil?
It does. I have another one if there's no one else.
There's Councillor Cole, but before you have a... Help yourself.
Okay, because the next bit talks about an international rail station. Now, we've got the station quarter redevelopment. Now, what more work needs to be done in order to ensure that we become an international railway station, to working on from the redevelopment of the station?
Tom?
Discussions are at an early stage with regards to that intervention, but it's absolutely a kind of aspiration that we need to be going for to put Peterborough on the map. It's my understanding that there are a number of European rail operators that are looking to extend their services north of London, particularly looking at Peterborough, York, Newcastle and Edinburgh, and that is something that we would certainly want to capitalise on as part of the wider Peterborough Station regeneration project.
Thank you. You okay? Councillor Cole, please.
Thank you, Leader. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. So the first one, I'm looking at the circle with the 5 interventions that need to take place. There is a growing digital divide between those that do have access to the appropriate technology and those that don't. So how is this plan, first question, how is this plan going to support to close the digital divide amongst communities in Peterborough?
Do you want to, is that your first question? Do you want to ask your second question? Let Tom answer both. Is that all right?
Yeah, so you want me to ask the second one?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay.
You okay with that, Tom? Yeah, might as well. Take both.
My second question is about point 5 on your circle diagram, where it talks about lobby for sufficient infrastructure investment. Peterborough is already struggling for school places for our pupils in our growing city. So what plans are there to work with the MPs to ensure that Peterborough's voice for further investment into our infrastructure, such as schools, is loud?
So thank you. Effectively, digital divide and infrastructure in the education and school placements.
Thank you, Councillor. With regards to the digital divide, we're working closely with the Connecting Cambridge programme, which is based out of Cambridge County Council, but which covers infrastructure, digital infrastructure across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, particularly looking at addressing issues of not spots and trying to bring as many parts of the county and the unitary authority area up to gigabit speed access. But beyond that, they also have a specific officer tasked with digital inclusion, and we're working very closely with them at the moment to ensure that those initiatives are fully rolled out within Peterborough. So that's one area. I also mentioned Digital Accelerator a minute ago, and there's an element of that which is targeted at encouraging young people to develop digital skills and pursue careers within the digital economy. With regards to the issue of infrastructure, these can often be national challenges, and as you say, it's right that we work with local MPs and other organisations such as the Combined Authority to try and address these. I'd go even further with regards to power and water and digital, and refer to the work that we're doing with the Fast Growth Cities group, which includes Oxford, Milton Keynes, Cambridge and Norwich. These are very fast but small to medium-sized cities that are very fast growing, the fastest growing in the country, but their growth is hampered by infrastructure. We'll have a more powerful voice as a group lobbying. Specifically with regards to education, absolutely take your point. I think that's something that we need to work with colleagues from across the council on to make sure that all of our plans are aligned and that we're making the best possible case for that funding.
Thank you, Tom. Councillor Cahan.
Thank you, Leader. Tom, I'd just like to sort of commend you on the report. I was particularly very excited to see 5.1.4, together we will create a healthier future, and then 5.1.7 on page 23, prevention, dependence and resilience. I'd just like to bring to your attention, in light of what Councillor Jamil has said about the alcoholics and the antisocial behaviour that arises, that it might be a good idea to bring into your meetings and incorporate the cross-working with some of the prevention stakeholders that we have in the city, such as Aspire, who are doing a great job at their outreach work. And is this something that you could possibly think about? Because we all know that having a healthier population leads to a thriving economy, and that goes in line with the local plan that actually good health should tie in with every directorate of the council, including growth. So do you have any vision around that, or any ideas on how you're going to incorporate good health within our local population as well?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with regards to the premise of the question. And I think it's a virtuous circle. I think good work can promote good health, and good health can promote good work. With regards to Aspire specifically, that's not something that I've particularly looked at the moment, but within the nighttime economy working group, that is co-chaired by the police, and we are looking at establishing task and finish groups with regards to specific projects there. But I would say that I do talk very closely with public health on this issue around health and well-being, the impact that has on work, but also, as I say, vice versa. And as a number of initiatives such as the Farm Star project that have specifically been put forward by public health colleagues, which I think are very interesting and have great merit. So that's absolutely something we'll be looking at. I'd also say that this is being put forward as a suite of strategies, including the employment and skills strategy, and more specifically the employment and skills strategy looks into that issue of good work.
That sounds very exciting, and I'm very reassured to hear that. I'd love to know more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curran. Thanks, Tom. Last but by no means least, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Leader. During our budget consultation meetings, as well as talking about the budget, that a lot of they look at all the other issues. And one thing which has come up is the city centre, and you mentioned the Guildhall, Tom. And isn't a question regarding what opportunities could there be for a better offer for the market, perhaps in that area or elsewhere in the city centre?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, as part of the City Centre Programme Board that I referred to earlier, markets is absolutely one strand that we're looking at. A number of discussions are taking place with potential providers of markets, and we're just investigating which would be the best solution for the city at the moment. But yes, vibrant markets do certainly support a vibrant city centre.
Thank you, members. That's fellow colleagues. That's the excellent questions, and thank you, Tom, for succinct and fulsome answers. Just on my part, one is a comment. I mean, we've had full fibre digital since 2015. Yeah. Can we lever anything more off that? And the reason for that is I'm conscious that infrastructure, particularly power and water, are huge issues for us. I'm not saying that we want to get ahead in the queue with the fastest growing cities, but we do. Is there anything we can do around that? Because also I have a responsibility with the combined authority, and these are huge challenges for us. Do you see any, what are the issues that we face here that you may need help politically or financially on?
Thank you, Leader. Well, absolutely. The issues of power and water are, as I say, issues of national importance at the moment. I wouldn't say that Peterborough is in a worse position, and certainly in a better position than some. Water is obviously in the east of England in particular an issue at the moment, and obviously organisations like Anglian Water are trying to address some of those with their reservoir projects at the moment. I take heart from some of the announcements that we've seen over the last day or two with regards to the investment summit and the talk that's coming out there with regards to data centres. If we're going to pursue that as a part of the industrial strategy, then that will absolutely need to be complemented by a national programme of strengthening our generation and the grid infrastructure within the country. And I think that Peterborough should be doing everything we can with the power of the MPs behind us to lobby for our position in that queue, as you say.
Thank you, Tom. I've no more questions. If there are no other questions, can we move to debate? Does anybody would like to debate the matter? I think there's been some excellent questions. If anybody minded to debate, I think it's reasonably straightforward what we're being asked to do, and the Cabinet is recommended to approve the adoption of the economic growth strategy. Are we agreed? Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Okay, we move on to item 7. Item 7 is, the next item is presented, the Greater Peterborough Visitor Economy Strategy. Again, as Councillor Thorburn, the Cabinet Member for Growth and Regen, has given his apologies, I will introduce the report as follows. Peterborough is an amazing place to live, work, study and visit, with a wide range of attractions and leisure activities for audiences of all ages and backgrounds. The visitor economy sector includes leisure, culture, heritage, sports, attractions, events, retail, accommodation, coffee shops, bars, restaurants, travel businesses, more and more, reaching tourists, visitors and locals alike. The list goes on. Visit Britain forecast that by 2025, Britain will have a visitor economy worth over 257 billion. That's around 10% of the UK gross domestic product, and will support 3.8 million jobs. In Peterborough, the visitor economy accounts for more than 19,000 jobs, or 16.4% of the total workforce. Support for the visitor economy sector is important because the businesses, organisations and services involved in the visitor economy sector are those that really make Peterborough a great place to live and work and add to the quality of life of residents. It provides a large number of direct and indirect jobs for our residents. A strong visitor economy will help to raise the profile of the city, attracting more visitors and more visitor spend as a consequence, more investment and more students and experienced talent. And a vibrant visitor economy helps to boost civic pride and create a sense of identity. The Greater Peterborough Visitor Economy Strategy has been developed with industry experts from across the city and beyond, and seeks to support the growth of our visitor economy strategy in 3 ways. Positioning the Greater Peterborough region as a destination of choice in the UK for staycations, whether day visits or overnight stays. Create a sustainable model with which to execute promotional activity and generate relentless positive PR across the city, leading to improved civic pride. Create a record of data that can be used to monitor and track progress and to inform on decisions in real time over the execution of this strategy term. But tourism isn't just for tourists. We will use this work to re-engage our communities with all that is great about the city and the surrounding area. Our relentless positive promotion will help to drive a sense of civic pride in the city, as well as combating negative external perceptions, increasing our ability to attract investment and new talent, in terms of new and eager young students. And finally, the positive effects of this strategy go far beyond the visitor economy. I hope the Cabinet views it equally positively, and I'm happy, or Nick would be happy, as I am, to take any questions. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader. I was looking at page 14 of the supporting document, point 2, where it says listen. The team identified to deliver the strategy must continue to listen to the voice of the resident and the visitor. With a parent who's got 2 small children, I know that if my children can drag me somewhere, the chances of me spending are much higher than if it's just myself and my husband. So when you say you're going to listen, are the views of the youth MPs and the Youth Council also going to be included, as they may be able to give some insight as to what would attract children and therefore their parents to come and spend in this city?
I think we'll call on Tom again, if we may, please.
Thank you, Luda. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, in short, absolutely. We will be wanting to engage further with the youth MPs and with the young people of Peterborough to ensure that we have a full range of activities and attractions that appeal to all ages.
As a would-be, wanna-be child-friendly city, that's good to hear, Tom. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions? If there aren't, is there anybody would like to start or move any debate? Again, I think this is reasonably straightforward. Councillor Kayam.
On the point of debate, I'd just like to make a point, because it doesn't actually qualify for a question, but I actually didn't know when I first came to Peterborough that we have a Queen who is actually lying in rest here, Queen Catherine. And I was further, when I came into public service, I was quite envious of the fact that Ely Cathedral had songs of praise and everything go there when it was their 300th or the like anniversary. And our cathedral's 900 years old, so it'd be wonderful. I know that the cathedral has upped their offering, but it would be great to have that sort of, and I'm really pleased to see it in the report. I just wanted to say it's been mentioned a couple of times, but it was great. I can remember not being able to sleep at night thinking that we have a queen buried in our city when I first learnt about it with the greatest of respect. But yeah, it was something that I think is really a jewel in Peterborough's crown, and we can choose to keep it that way. But I just wanted to make that point.
It's a very fair point, and we've executed one not far from here, so, you know, we can't really argue with that, can we? Tom, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, just to add to that, as part of the strategy, this is not just about promoting the city to residents and to potential visitors, but also to people like the BBC and film producers about using the city as a location, but also people who want to bring exhibitions and conferences here or put on large musical events. So there's the kind of the B2C type marketing that we'll be looking at, but also that B2B business to business marketing and bringing in more events and really trying to showcase our city to the very best we can.
Thank you. Of more interest to me, I believe that they're looking to film some of Slow Horses here, which I've been binge watching, which is, you know, so watch that space. And that is really exciting, I promise you. Okay. Any other debate before we move to recommendation? No? Okay, in which case, following the debate, Cabinet is recommended to acknowledge, support and approve the draft visitor economy strategy and the associated action plan. Are we agreed? We are indeed. Thank you. I'm just about to introduce it. Do you want to say? You're okay. Can I crack on? Okay. Item 8, interpretation and translation services. Can't even say it. Item 8 is a report regarding the contract award for interpretation and translation services. Can I ask Councillor Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Service, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Leader. Translation services are part of the Council's public sector equality duty. The service meets this obligation by ensuring accessibility for people and communities that we serve. This is a corporate contract which is commissioned and contract managed by Children's Commissioning. The current contract is with Language Line TI and comes to an end on the 7th of November 2024. It is recommended that the Council proceeds to direct award to Language Line Ltd under the NHS Shared Business Services Framework. The direct award would commence on the 8th of November 2024 for an initial period of 2 years with the option to extend for 2 further periods of 12 months, giving a total contractual term of 4 years. This approach also provides Peterborough with the opportunities to continue to consider the fast-paced development of technology, new systems and innovative tools which could be utilised in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Do we have any questions for officers or members? If nobody is, Councillor Jamil.
I just got a quick question. The cost seems rather high, and have we really explored all the options out there? I know that we've talked about AI and we've talked about whether, you know, having people present is requirement. So what have we done to manage our costs in this? Because it just seems to have been a big jump from like that previously.
Can I just add to that to save you coming back with a supplementary question? Is you do mention about the advances in technology, and the world today will look a very, very different place in 2 years' time. And how do we control, rein in our costs, which is vital for us as a council at the moment, whilst making sure that we have a quality of access across both translation and interpretive services? John, do you want to you want to come in on that? Yeah. By all means, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I think there's lots of exciting developments in this space. So we're currently shadowing another local authority who's already implemented some of the AI functions into children's services. So I think we would anticipate that longer term we'd see more innovative responses, particularly when we're talking about document translation, where there are some very good technical solutions, and I think we'll see them increasing going forward. There will always be a need in certain specific circumstances for there to be face-to-face translation. For example, maybe in a child protection conference or in the court arena, perhaps, certainly for the foreseeable future. But again, we would continue to look as developments progress to see whether there are opportunities to use AI or other technical solutions going forward. In terms of the contract and the concerns regarding the cost, I think that's a direct reflection on the increase in the demand that we're currently seeing across children's, adults and housing services. But obviously there's work underway to try and manage those demands in other ways going forward.
Comforting to hear, thank you. Can I bring in Matt Gladstone, Chief Executive, please?
Thanks, Leader. Just to pick up on the innovation technology piece, we've had further discussions with Steve Taylor around commissioning. I do think there are ways, this is a good example where we could transform our services with technology. I know the police use that now already. We were talking examples around the prison service, what they do for translation support. So I think there's ways and means of really driving the cost base down significantly because AI can do a lot of this stuff now. So I think we're ready to exploit that. And I don't think that's been sufficiently explored, but I'm happy for the contract to go through, but I just think we need to really signal, look at how we can really drive that cost base down. I understand the demand pressures, 3,000 cases, I think, coming through, but the actual technology is available, and that is exactly what police and other services are doing now, in with the court system as well.
Thank you, Matt. Before I bring Cecilia on costs, I'm conscious I have a contribution from Councillor Cahan, please, before I bring you.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to give an example of how language line services can sometimes be used in my own professional line of work. It can be very cumbersome and very long-winded, and waiting times can be quite exorbitant. So I just wanted to draw Cabinet to that experience as well. And given the fact that there is very high costs, I'm inclined to agree very much with Matt that I think that if there is a way that we can put this back to officers to have a look at, it would be appropriate. That was just the point that I actually wanted to make. The cost is very exorbitant. It also might be useful to see if we do have any figures on people who speak English with a second language who come into the children's services who are using, for which this service is actually used. So that some of those figures would be quite interesting if we were to know what the volume and workload is with reference to using this too. Thank you.
It's a good point, and if we can't see an immediate reduction in costs, there may be a tapering of costs as obviously the technology increases. But can I bring you in at this point, please, Cecilia?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, just to give some assurance that this contract is a pay-as-you-go service, so it's not a fixed contract. I've spoken to John and to other CLT members that we will use this contract as an exception only. We have a range of tools available that are very, very good. Take on board Councillor Caham's comments as well. Some of the translation services and the translators are difficult to find sometimes and delay things significantly. So the way we will operate this contract is we put some spending controls in place from the outset, and we're looking to make some significant savings on the actual budget where this contract sits.
Excellent. Thank you, Cecilia. Any other questions and or debate? No? Okay. In which case, Cabinet, you are asked to authorise a direct award to Language Line Limited under the NHS Shared Business Service framework to provide interpretation and translation services to Peterborough City Council for a period of 4 years, including an extension period of up to 2 years, and a contract value of £258,000 per annum. The contract shall commence on the 8th of November 2024 and authorise the Executive Director of Adult Social Care and Commissioning at their discretion to extend the contract term up to 2 years, 2 periods of 12 months in accordance with the contract provision, notwithstanding the debate that we've just had. Are we agreed? Thank you. Yes.
Would that prevent us looking at this because we're approving the direct cost? Would that prevent us from looking at this, re-looking at it? We're just...
Not to my knowledge, because it's a pay-as-you-go service anyway. So
Okay.
what we've got the sufficient cover, and that's what said. Either we reduce it or taper it, or even stop if the technology allows.
Thanks
Is that okay?
Thanks
you.
for clarifying.
Okay, item 9. Fletton Keys Hotel update. Is a report regarding the Fletton Keys Hilton Hotel development. Cabinet, before I ask the Cabinet member to introduce the report, I'd like to remind members that there is an exempt appendix associated with this report. However, I'd like as much of the discussion around this item to be held in public as possible. However, if you wish to discuss the information contained within the appendix, it will be necessary to move to private session. Can members therefore clearly indicate before speaking whether their comments are related to the appendix, and we will save them from the end. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, will you please take us through the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to present this report on the Fletton Keys Hilton Hotel. As you know, Cabinet previously agreed to a credit bid to acquire the hotel at no additional cost and to put it into a company. This report presents a more economical, advantageous option. This is to agree for the hotel to be sold directly from the administrator to a third party. The details of the agreement are commercially confidential. However, I can say that they have committed to building a hotel on that site, and the bid is at a level which provides us with a good return. Turn the page. This third party has come forward as a result of the soft marketing exercise. This option means that the council does not need to borrow to complete the hotel. It also means the hotel can be completed in a more timely way. A full business case has been completed using the HMT Green Book methodology, and this demonstrates that this is the preferred option when considering the strategic, economic, commercial, financial and management perspectives. Should this agreement not complete, then the council will acquire the hotel and undertake a full marketing exercise while completing all the due diligence on self-delivery.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil, for a comprehensive report on that. Are there any questions that are likely to need us to go into exempt session first of all? I'm not seeing any nods, in which case can we move to questions and or debate? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks for that, Jamil. Obviously, it's great news that we have progressed this far, bearing in mind the situation that we have been facing. Just have we got any ideas of when the completion time will be and when there might be first activities going on in the building? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durr. I just want to start by saying this has been dragging on for such a long time. We're the third administration that are dealing with this. So I'm kind of hoping that this deal will soon be done and then we can put this to bed, because it is fast becoming a joke. My friend here will answer the...
Let me bring Cecilia in and shared microphone. Yours might work now. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully it won't be a joke. So we're hoping, providing we get approval today to go ahead with and accept the bid we've had, we're hoping to complete within the next 4 to 6 weeks, so well before Christmas. And the buyers have indicated that they aim to complete the hotel within 12 months of completing the deal. So maybe Christmas 2025 we can have a big party in the Sky Bar in the hotel, hopefully.
Thank you, Cecilia. I'm also, if there's any other question, because I'm minded just to, for the sake of clarity, we have kept the improvement panel and group leaders appraised of developments, albeit that the numbers themselves remain confidential at the moment. So they are aware of this, Are there any other questions or anybody wishing to speak on it before we move to the recommendation? Your silence is your guilt. The committee is asked to, 1, agree that if the option of selling the asset directly from the administration to the preferred third-party bidder is more economically advantageous to the council than purchasing the asset, the council should step aside to allow that sale to occur. 2, agree that if a sale directly to the preferred third-party bidder cannot be completed within a timely fashion, the council should complete the acquisition of the hotel asset. 3, delegate authority to the Executive Director of Corporate Services in consultation with a Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance and Director of Legal and Governance, to take necessary actions to achieve the most economical, advantageous outcome for the Council. In line with the above recommendations, if approved, and the Cabinet's previous decisions in relation to this matter, which are referred to in section 11 of this report. Are we agreed? Thank you. We didn't need to go into an exempt session, which is absolutely fine, and in which case, thank you to everyone in attendance for the time and input today. I now declare the meeting closed and wish everybody a safe journey home. Thank you.